Is Congress really fighting for working families, or just helping billionaires? In today's clip, a heated House session unpacks critical economic issues facing American families. From tax credits to tariffs, lawmakers debate how to ease the financial squeeze and who should foot the bill. Watch as tensions flare over billionaire tax policies, child tax credit reforms, and explosive remarks about China tariffs and fairness in America.
Some things that I disagreed with. The bill that we did expand affordable housing supply by restoring the 12.5% allocation increase for LIHTC, while lowering the bond financing threshold to 25%. I think these are very, very powerful things in the affordable housing world, and something that I think we as members of Congress, on both sides, I mean, you're going to hear a lot of drama, but the bottom line is I think there are a lot of things that we can agree with. Do want to ask you a couple questions before we move on to the next person. Over the last 4 years, in a state like Ohio, families have been squeezed, obviously, by rising prices, cost of living, groceries, whatever. And I want to address the child tax credit, because I think this is something that we did in our package that I'm very proud to have supported. So I supported it in this bill, and it increases it by $500. Can you speak to how the Treasury views the role of modernizing the child tax credit and boosting family stability and workforce participation, and what's at stake if we let these enhanced benefits expire?
Well, Congressman Kerry, that is a fantastic point, because not only does the One Big Beautiful Bill add $500 to the child tax credit, it makes it permanent. Mm-hmm. So if the bill does not pass, then there will be substantial diminution when we talk about uncertainty for working families in terms of which parent should go to work, which shouldn't, in terms of supplies, in terms of their household balance sheets. So I think, as with most things in this bill, the permanence, as well as the increase in the child tax credit, is what is very powerful here.
And can you address if we did nothing, right? If we did absolutely nothing, we're going to go up to $2,500. But if we did nothing, what does the child tax credit go back to?
I don't know the exact number.
It's $1,000, right?
Yeah, so it's $1,000. So
right. So I mean,
it's halved.
We're giving more money, but if we do nothing, it would go back to $1,000. I think I'm correct with that.
Yep, and the $2,500 is permanent.
Yeah.
There is surety there for families planning their budgets, planning the labor allocation, how they will work, when they will work.
Mr. Secretary, I do appreciate your time, and I want to let you know, I mean, as somebody that's on this committee, there are a lot of things that my colleagues on the other side and I agree with, and I just want you to know that I know that we will work continually hard to work with the administration to make sure that those things get through, because it's for the betterment of the American people. So, Mr. Secretary, thank you for your time, and I appreciate your service, sir.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Yocum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing today, and Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. I want to applaud your work on rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. You've seen a lot of hysteria and dire predictions about DOGE, but a recent briefing by Treasury and DOGE to our staff showed there's plenty of unsexy work that happened behind the scenes. There's one example where the IRS had over 100 licenses for a piece of software where it turned out they only needed 2. There's a saying that character is what you're doing when no one's looking. The same applies to government spending. I appreciate your work in going line by line within your budget to find unnecessary spending and things like this that we can root out. One area of spending that I do think is well worth the investment is our taxpayer advocate service, which helps our caseworkers navigate the IRS bureaucracy that our constituents often face. Mr. Secretary, countries across the world are implementing taxes that target American companies. Canada's digital services tax, for example, is estimated to bring in $2.5 billion of revenue for Canada. $2.3 billion of that is from American companies. The UK, EU, and others are contemplating digital services taxes and undertaxed profit rule measures that target American companies, which basically pulls money straight out of the U.S. Treasury. Our One Big Beautiful Bill gives the Treasury Department updated tools that will fight these unfair taxes. Obviously, the best way for companies or countries to avoid these tools and these taxes is to not have unfair taxes in the first place. Are you in conversation with any countries about their DSTs and UTPRs, and what is the status of those conversations?
Yes, and to be clear, we do not use 899 as a negotiating thing, but other countries do pull substantial revenues out of the U.S. Treasury, and our great internet companies, which are unique to the U.S., they are an example. This digital service tax was especially egregious. Look, Canada is a close ally, but like, say, one's neighbor on a block, sometimes your neighbor can take things for granted, and they have put in a digital service tax, and they are taking taxes retroactively.
And Mr. Secretary, how hard is the administration fighting and pushing back?
It is a centerpiece of our tariff negotiations. So when I talk about what are we pushing back on, we are pushing back on tariffs, non-tariff measures, currency manipulation, government subsidies, and unfair taxation and the fines such as the EU does on the same companies.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And to follow up on one of my colleagues' questions, has China threatened to cut off our pharmaceuticals?
No.
Thank you. Speaking of China, China has plowed nearly $2 trillion over the last 4 years into increasing factory production and construction. But those factories aren't just churning out gizmos and gadgets for domestic consumption. It's doubling down on their overcapacity, and the numbers bear that out. Exports from China rose 13% in 2023 and 17% in 2024. It seems like there's a global recognition of the threat posed by Chinese overcapacity. The EU, Brazil, Indonesia, Thailand, and others have also imposed tariffs on China to counter the flood of cheap imports, not just us. You've talked in the past about a, quote, fortress North America, which we would coordinate with Canada and Mexico on Chinese overcapacity. Can you please give an update on administration efforts around this?
Sure. So China accounts for approximately 30% of global manufacturing. They're trying to go on their way to 40. That is unsustainable. I warned our allies that when we put our tariff wall around China, that the goods and services, which I would say are the equivalent of that Disney movie where the brooms carry the buckets of water, that's the Chinese business model. And I warned them the goods will come ashore in Europe, in Canada, in Australia, and unfortunately I was proven correct. So they are seeing substantial price deflation from China, especially in things like EVs. So we think that it's important not to have transshipment. So goods cannot move from China to Vietnam to the U.S., from China. And the reason I talked about Fortress North America, because the greatest opportunity for transshipment is via Mexico or Canada using USMCA. Our trade partners are very responsive to this. They have made some very good offers on it.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, how are you doing?
So far, so good.
Okay, I was just curious because I know Elon Musk body checked you at the White House. I just no animosity to Elon Musk, right?
You know that?
That's what I heard.
So you believe?
That's what I heard.
You believe what you read on Breitbart is
well,
what
listen,
you're telling us, Congressman.
I didn't know if it's too sensitive for you. I won't ask that question, but let me move on.
I will take South Carolina over South Africa any day.
Mr. Secretary, you believe that people should be judged on their merit, correct?
Yes, sir.
You believe people should be judged on their job performance, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just want to make sure. And the reason why is that one of the first things this administration promises to do was to lower taxes, lower the cost of living on day one. So let's get into that. On June 1st, Mr. Secretary, you said in regards to tariffs that there have been no significant price increases and concerns are overstated. Listen, I get it. For somebody that's worth $521 million, no significant tariffs are not going to impact you. But I want to talk about working class people in my district and across the country that are impacted by tariffs. Do you know what percentage of shoes are actually that are sold in the United States are made here?
I do not know that, but what I know is...
Let me reclaim my time. And the reason why...
The inflation number
let me tell you why. Because 1% of the shoes sold in the United States are made here. 1%. That means 99% of the shoes are made somewhere else. As a dad of a toddler who's growing and growing and growing, we have to buy him a lot of shoes. So that's what we know, that the prices are increasing on shoes. We also know that under the most favorite nation tariff rate, that amount is about 20%. Then you add an additional 10% across the board that you guys have placed, we're going to see working people, paying more for shoes, paying more for their clothes, paying more for essentials, and it's going to go up. And I get it. You're worth $521 million. I know that the president's a billionaire. I know Elon Musk. Most of the cabinet members are billionaires. And I know that you're on the lower end of that economic ladder in the White House. But for somebody that's making $30,000 or less a year, it's significant. I worked minimum wage jobs growing up. My parents worked 4 to 5 jobs a week to make ends meet. That's most people in this country. And one of the things that we know is this big billionaire bill is going to increase taxes on working class people. We know that most of the benefits go.
In just under 13 minutes, we saw stark contrast between bold economic reforms and fiery critiques of inequality. From the child tax credit battle to global digital tax diplomacy, Congress laid bare its tensions. This clip captures how U.S. lawmakers are grappling with global economic shifts and domestic hardship, and reveals the intense pressure to deliver relief without triggering backlash. What do you think? Should billionaires pay more? Should tariffs be lifted to help families? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spark Breaking News.